Well, hello and welcome back. And this week is something that really I agree with my pastor on. It's something that you don't hear a lot about, and that is it's the gift of fear, which is why should we fear God? And I'll ramble after. I'm just going to give you the first two quick points, and then we'll go into detail about these points. Sorry, my eyes were distracted. I've got something going on the computer in the background. Sorry about that. I won't do that again. But anyway, point why should I fear God? Number one, it keeps us from sinning. And really, that is a big thing that we should talk a lot more about is the fear of God. And we should fear God. Then the next thing is it gives us a huge appreciation for God's grace and mercy. Because if you're not afraid of Him and you've never been punished by Him, then you don't have any kind of appreciation for what He does for you. And if you fear Him and you understand all of these things that you do wrong, when, and you're afraid of the repercussions of the wrong, when He does something good for you, you appreciate it even more. And like I said, this is something that, that you don't hear a lot about in church, or you don't hear a lot about anything about, fearing God. It's not taught to us as a child. It's not taught to us as adults. It's not taught to us as Christians. It's something that we read about. We just read over it. And then it's not just something that's just pounded and pounded in our heads, is how much we should fear God. And we should fear God. Just as much as, hey, even as an adult, I fear, my parents and their opinions of me now. Now it's no longer punishment from them, it's just their opinions of me. And fearing what, someone who loves you, fearing what they will do to you or how they feel about you is a lot. And I'm actually going to read. That's what I've been doing here. I was flipping through. This is Genesis 3 verse 10. He said, "I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself." And that's the first time it ever talked about somebody being afraid of God. And he was just afraid of him because he knew he was sinning now. He had the knowledge of good and evil, and you being naked wasn't right. And so he was afraid to show himself because he knew what he was doing was wrong. And that was, and from the beginning, we are supposed to know good from evil, and we should fear doing the evil because God doesn't want the evil and God is going to do something. We should fear the repercussions of what God is doing, and we should fear that. And we don't. Nobody does. Nobody fears, God enough. We don't have enough God fearing Christians. And that term gets thrown around, God fearing Christians, but yet we don't talk about being God fearing Christians. We don't talk about fearing God. We don't talk about the punishments of God and the things that God has done and will do to punish. And that's where we should be afraid of God and God's punishment as Christians. And the world should be afraid of God and His punishment in the end, because Christians are being punished here on earth for our sins. What happens on earth is the punishment for sins, because we won't get the eternal punishment, which is hell. We will get it. We will get our reward, which is heaven. non-believers, of course, God's not punishing someone that's going to burn in hell. He's not punishing them right now because their punishment is to come. And they have no fear of God because they don't believe in a heaven or hell, so they're not worried about their punishment. And that's why, atheists and agnostics, that's why they exist in this world, is to try and stop the fear of God. They don't want us to fear what we do right now. Live in the moment, but that's not right. We should fear God. We should fear God's punishment, and we should live our lives that way. Because I didn't. I didn't until recent years. I didn't fear God's punishment. I just loved God's protection. God's protection is great, but God will punish us, and you've got to start seeing where, hey, yeah, I see why this happened to me as a good person because I did this as a good person, and this is my punishment for it. And that's what we should do. We should be fearing that punishment, and we don't, because we just think that's just daily life. We don't realize how good it's, and if we will, that's what number 2 is. It gives us a huge appreciation of God's grace. That way, when we fear His punishment, we see when He's doing good for us. And that's all I've got for this one now. I mean, really. And I will see y'all next week. And like I said, leave me comments, send me comments, tell me things that you would like me to talk about other than this. And like I said, just, leave me comments. If you like the video, thumbs it up. If you want to see more, subscribe to my channel. That's the only sure way to get all of my updates. Don't rely on Facebook for it. Don't rely on Twitter. Go to YouTube. If you've got a Google, you've got a YouTube account. You just don't know it yet. All you got to do is click YouTube, and you're there. Then, if you're signed into Google, you go to YouTube. You're signed in there, and just subscribe. And I'll see y'all next week. And y'all have a blessed week.